Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I have been MIA in the past, I want to say 2-ish months. I'm not quite sure when I fell off the bandwagon, but I did, and then I'm really bad at getting back on when I fall off of a habit, so I do apologize for that. I have a bunch of videos that I want to upload in quick succession to make up for that lost time. So you might see a couple videos a week until I'm back onto my regularly scheduled one video a week schedule. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I also want to give a disclaimer that I just recently got Invisalign. So if I sound like I have a bit of a lisp, that is why. I'm still getting used to talking around this thing. So S's and the and sh, those sounds, they kind of slur a bit, so I apologize in advance, but that is why I sound like that. So today is going to be my first quarter of the year reading wrap up. Some of these might have reviews already. I can't remember how far I got along, but if I don't have a full video review for any of these reads, stay tuned because I will be posting that in the future. And this is just my quick, what did I read in the first 3 months of the year? What were my basic thoughts on them? And do I recommend them? So let's get started. I read 11 books in the first quarter of the year, which is huge for me. I believe last year total, I read, I want to say 14, but it might have been a bit more than that. But my goal for this year is 26 books, so I'm already 2 books away from being halfway there. So I'm super excited. Last month was not as good. I believe I only finished 1 book. But I'll explain it in the video why that is. So let's just get started here. Again, I don't have copies of all the books, but I will be showing you the ones that I do. So I started off the year with reading The Damned by Renee Ahdieh. This is the second book in the Beautiful Quartet. I don't believe I put out a video on my review of The Beautiful, which is book 1, because I was going to do all of them together, which I will do. The Damned, it's set in the 1800s, and it's like a paranormal mystery type thing. There's vampires, there's werewolves, there's fairies, and book 1 I gave 4 stars. I reread it in December so that I could finally finish the series. I only own books 1 and 2, and I read the rest of the quartet this quarter as well. Book 3 is The Righteous, and book 4 is The Ruin, and I got those 2 from my library, and I'm sad to say I will not be purchasing them. This book series had the steepest downward trajectory I have ever seen in my life. And again, this is just a quick video, so I'm not going to go into detail about that. But book 2, I think I gave 3 stars, 3.5 maybe. And then, or was this one 2? I can't remember. You have to look at my Goodreads or wait until the detailed video, but book 3 was slightly better, and then book 4 was an absolute dumpster fire, and I am still angry and disappointed. I don't even know. But yeah, again, wait for that video, but this was my second read of the year. And then a little bit, I think I waited, I don't remember if I read them back to back. I might have waited a bit to read books 2 and 3 and 4, but that's 3 of the books I read. Then I read Fateless by Julie Kagawa. If you don't know, Julie Kagawa is my favorite author of all time. Her The Iron Fae series is my favorite book series of all time, and it was what initially inspired me to write my own fantasy series, The Fedalian Chronicles. So it'll always have a special place in my heart, and I will read anything that Julie Kagawa writes. I don't care. It could be terrible, but it'll be good in my eyes, and I don't care if I'm 85. I will, I will still be reading these books, regardless of how old I get. She tends to write YA. This one, I feel is a bit on the younger YA side, though it could also be because I am now 26. But some of her other stuff, like the Blood of Eden trilogy with vampires, is more on the upper YA side. And this one is super cool because it takes place in like kind of almost like a Middle Eastern inspired setting. There's two suns and it's always like really hot, and then you have like there's lots of sand, and I'm explaining it terribly, but basically the main character finds herself embroiled in this like overarching like massive plot, and there's these deadly gods and what have you. And I have an advanced reader copy, which one of my Instagram friends one like sent to me because she read it and she wasn't a huge fan and she wanted to go to a good home. So now I have it. I'm super happy to have an arc of my favorite author's books because I never have before. And it is number 7 of 25, and 7 is my lucky number, so I feel like it's meant to be. This one I rated 4 stars. I was wanting a little bit more from it, but I'm very excited to read Deathless, which is book 2. I'm not sure, but I believe it's out this year, and we'll see how it goes. I typically tend to rate the first book in a series a bit lower anyway, and then as it goes on, my ratings typically go up, and then the series as a whole might be 5 stars, even if book 1 was lacking a little bit. And then I had to read my own book, and I'm counting it because this monster is 619 pages, so there's no way that's not going on my Goodreads. This is Season of Ruin, book 3 in the Fedalian Chronicles. This is the third and final book, and it comes out on May 1st. And I had to do the proofread, so I had to read every single page again, and I love the heck out of this book. I am so proud of this book. Like, book 2 was the best book I'd ever written. I was so excited, and I was like, I don't think I can top this. I've done it again, and I'm honestly, like, in awe of what I've accomplished here. It's just 619 pages of pure amazingness, and that's not me tooting my own horn. Like, I was reading this, and as a reader, like, I wasn't even reading it as a writer. I was reading it as a reader, and I was just engrossed. But anyway, you'll have to buy it and find out for yourself. And then I read another one of my books, Sacred Ruse, which is book 2 in the Guild trilogy, which is my YA dystopian series. It is complete, but I was listening to the audiobook version, so proofreading, but proof listening, and I fell in love with this book in a way I never have before. Like, obviously, I wrote it, I love it, but I had no idea that I could fall in love with it all over again after having read this book like over a dozen times. But something about being able to hear the conversations that the characters have, like there's a few scenes where it gets like really intense and the characters are like yelling at each other and they're like crying and it's like very emotional, and I wrote the scenes and I knew they were sad, but like I never felt much when writing or reading them, but like actually hearing my narrator narrate those scenes, like I was crying. I was heavily emotional. I was like, oh my god, because like it just made it more real because you could hear the characters. Like obviously it's one narrator narrating them all, but like it was just actually being able to experience the emotion was something else. And yeah, so if you want an audiobook, the first book, Silent Night, and Sacred Ruse, the second book, are now available in audio. Book 3 is hopefully coming later this year, but they're on Audible. So that brings me to 1, 2, 3, 4. That brings me to 4 physical reads plus the 2 that I got at the library. That is 6, so we're about halfway there. And then I was also in my like audiobook era, my non-fictional audiobook era. So first up, I listened to, doesn't really matter, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, and it was really good. It kind of combines their real life military stories from Iraq. I don't think Iran, just Iraq. And obviously they have to change the details and stuff to maintain confidentiality and whatever, but it's essentially their real life stories from Iraq, and then they take those stories and they use those stories to teach you different leadership principles, and then they tell you stories from real life businesses and how you can apply what they learned from the military about leadership to business situations, and I found it was really good. I really enjoyed it. The audiobook was super good as well. Jocko and Leif both narrate the audiobook depending on whose story is being told at the time, and they did a really good job. It was just like basically listening to a podcast or listening to them talk. And then after that, I went into the next book, kind of like a sequel. It's called The Dichotomy of Leadership, and it kind of dives a little bit deeper into the principles of extreme ownership, and it talks about, like, extreme ownership talks about these principles, and then in the dichotomy, they talk about how you can take some of these principles too far in either direction. So it's important to find balance in everything you do. So, you want to be aggressive, but not too aggressive, and stuff like that. And again, it was really good. We have a physical copy, but I did listen to the audiobook. I find that with nonfiction books, I tend to absorb the information better if I listen to it, whereas with fiction, I tend to absorb it better if I read it. So that is book 7 and 8. Sorry, I only have so much time here. I'm supposed to be somewhere later, but just checking. So then after that, I did listen to another audiobook, which is number 9, and I'm not going to go into detail about it because it's really hard in this day and age to read or consume certain pieces of media and then to talk about it on the internet without being immediately shot down or canceled or misunderstood. And there's not a lot of room for nuance and for people to listen to other points of view and to take the time to understand things. So I'm not going to show a picture of it or anything, but I did listen to the audiobook of The Art of the Deal by the President of the United States. And I'm not going to go into detail about it. I liked the audiobook. I thought as a production, the audiobook was well done. And in terms of the content, whether or not you like the man, whether or not I like the man, I'm not going to go into my opinions on him at all. I am not American, first of all. But this book was written back in the 80s, I believe, long before he became the president. And it talked about his business life, the deals that he made coming up in the world. And I think that he is a lot smarter than a lot of people either realize or want to realize. And whether or not you agree with his methods, because some of the stuff was a bit shady, but I think at the end of the day, that is business, and whether or not that should be business, that's another story. But he does have a lot of really good points, and there's a lot you can learn from the things that he did or the things that he didn't do, and even just to learn about how he did things, to educate yourself on how you don't want to do things. But I felt it was a really good book, and yeah, that's as far as I'm going to go on that. But I think it's important for us as a society to read books from different points of view, and to read books written from people we don't like also, because it's probably important to know what these people think and about certain things, and if you ignore them completely, how are you supposed to know what they've said, what they believe in? And B, it's important to test your own beliefs by broadening your horizons. If we only ever read one type of book, how are we developing our brains? And if you're only ever reading one point of view, A, how do you know what the other side is doing? And B, how do you know if you're on the right side? I don't know. That's something you guys have to figure out. But I think it's really unfortunate that people choose only to read from conservative viewpoints or liberal viewpoints, or only read books from Christians, or only read books from atheists. And I don't know. But that's all I have to say on the matter. I've already probably said too much, but anyway, I did read that. And then after that, book number 10, I read Air of Secrets by my friend. Her pen name is Ali, and that's UMMALI, two separate. I'm terrible at pronouncing these sort of things. But she wrote Air of Secrets. I did a beta read for her, and you guys, you are not ready for this book. I was not ready for this book. I read it in 3 days, okay, which is insane for me at this point in my life. I used to read a book in a day back in like high school, but I haven't read a book that fast in a long time. And it was on my phone because I had the Google Doc. Did I read it on the computer? No, I read it on the computer, which is even more insane because, like, that's a lot of work. You gotta have the computer. But I devoured it. And it was like watching a train wreck in slow motion, but not knowing that the train was wrecking until it was wrecked. That is the best way I can explain it. Like, it's like you understand everything in retrospect after it's happened. But like the whole time you're like in denial about what's happening. It was incredible, and I can't say too much about it because I feel like you have to go into this book blind and not knowing much, because otherwise it won't have the same impact. But essentially it takes place in a fictional version of like Dubai / the UAE. So it's like Middle Eastern, but like high society Middle Eastern, because the main character is the prince of like the royal family of the region. And he grew up in America, but his father comes and says it's time for you to come back and join the family. And so it's like his journey of joining the family and all the politics and nonsense and rich life that comes along with it. And then you also get the perspective of Maya, who he went to school with, and Maya ends up over in his home country as well, and she is searching for her father who is missing. And these two storylines entwine, and that's all I can say because I don't want to spoil anything. I don't know when the book is coming out, but you need to follow Ali on Instagram and what have you, and keep your eyes posted for this book because wow. And then I finished the quarter by reading Scythe by Neal Shusterman. And I had a hard time getting into this book at first. The narration style is third person, but it's like almost that it's in between third person limited and third person omniscient. So like you're not in a single person's head, but you're not all seeing either. And it felt like very detached, like you are watching the characters on a TV screen in bits and pieces of their lives without actually, like, you're not in the TV with them. It's really hard to explain, but I found it was like a very detached style of narration, so I found it hard to connect with the characters and with the plot at first. But I think that that's also intentional because of like the themes and content of this book. It's like eerie because you feel detached, and I think that's the point. But overall, this was a really good book. I gave it 4 stars, and I really like the fact that it's a perfect world. Death doesn't exist anymore because people can reincarnate themselves, and like when they reach old age, they reset back to like 25 and they can start all over again, and people just keep going around and around. There's no disease, there's no famine. It's a perfect world, but the earth still has a finite number of people that it can support. And so they have scythes, which are essentially grim reapers, basically, and they are people that are tasked with ending human life to keep the earth going. And so if you're killed by a scythe, it's permanent. And essentially we follow 2 young people that become scythes apprentices, and it's their story. And it was really, like, I really appreciate the deep themes of this book, and, like, the question is, like, is death what gives life meaning? And yeah, it was super cool. Again, it took me a while to get into it, but the plot twists in, like, the second half of the book are so worth it. So I definitely recommend it. You just have to get through that first half and, like, the strangeness of it, I guess. And yeah, I'm currently reading the second book, and I already got the third book from the library. It is massive, okay? Well, like, hold on here. This is book 1. This is book 3. It's, like, almost twice as, well, not quite twice as big, but I, like, got it out of the library. I was like, holy crap. So we'll see how long it takes me to read this. I haven't finished the second book yet either, but yeah. So that was everything that I read in the first quarter of 2026. 11 books. A good mix of 5-star reads, 4 stars, and then a couple 2 stars, which is still so unfortunate. But yeah, stay tuned for the individual reviews on each of these books if you are interested, and let me know in the comments your favorite reads from the first quarter of the year. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you thought, and even let me know what your least favorite read of the year was, because I've had a hard time picking my least favorite for a long time, but I definitely know this time that it was The Ruin. And it's probably my least favorite book I've ever read, and I hate Wuthering Heights and Frankenstein and all those books, but at least I knew that they were gonna suck. Yeah, anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you have a great week, great month, and a great reading quarter. I'm hoping to get a lot more reading done again this quarter, so stay tuned for more videos.